How can you tell a bad used motorcycle from a good one? Most often than not, the signs that would indicate the quality of a motorcycle are already there, visible on a close inspection. In these 3 videos, we're gonna do an inspection the way I do it on motorcycles. In these 3 parts, we're gonna look at the engine, exhaust and the drivetrain, the frame and electrical components, and then the wheels, brakes and suspension. It's gonna be a handheld shot, so I'm gonna have to take the camera off the tripod and let's get going. Okay, let's get started here. When you walk up to the bike, the handlebars. When I'm looking at the handlebars, I'm looking for symmetry. And the handlebars should rise to the same height, and they should be left and right symmetrical in all angles. This one checks out, and for a contrast, I've got handlebars here on the ground that do not check out. And here is this one for a starter. If we put it on the ground here, this way, I'm gonna have to put my foot on it. It appears to be symmetrical. You can see that it's been subject to a fall, mirror is broken, and also there is some scratch marks on the handlebar end weight. When I turn the handlebar this way, it also appears to be symmetrical. However, this part of the handlebar is further that way than this part of the handlebar. I don't know if we can look into it this way. That's how to spot it. They are not lined up. The handlebar got twisted when the person fell with the motorcycle. It got bent. It got bent this way, and this piece moved forward, and this handlebar has been compromised and is unsafe to use. Here's another one. Take a look at this one. From this angle, it kind of checks out, but I think the deformity is also obvious from here, even more so from this angle. Also, you can see in this corner of the metal here, the paint cracking out as the metal was stretched out on this side, compressed on this side, and it's buckling here in the middle. Just for comparison, this is how normal handlebar would look like, and that's where the damaged part is. So that one's bent. Next part of the frame will be the head weld here. This part of the motorcycle, this is where the steering happens. You can kind of see it this way, and this is the head weld. What I'm looking at on the head weld is not so much the plate on the motorcycle and its authenticity, more so I'm looking for rust. Any rust that I want to see should be extremely shallow, which is in the case where you can see a couple of rust spots there. You can see that the head weld is definitely not rusted through, not even halfway through, not even quarter way through. It's just minor surface pitting on it. And if you look closely, what you see here is original weld splatter from the factory. That one there, and those little spots there. Welding splatter from the factory when this was made in 1980 or 81, whenever the head weld was actually made. Underneath the cables here, you can see what I'm looking for is any kind of cracks, any kind of chips, nicks, buckling, like on the handlebar, the paint being crumpled or indicating any kind of buckling or metal distortion. Coming further down here, it checks out fine, and the front part of the frame is looking good. Also, what I'm looking on frame is symmetry. So should check out on the other side. The head weld should appear to be the same, unmodified, uncut, without grinder marks or anything. This little bit of rust there, it's from the just have to, sorry guys, wrong button. Yeah, this little bit of rust there is from the from this cable as the motorcycle is steered. That's how this cable is rubbing off the paint there. You can see the same welding splatter on this one. The original and the welding is in excellent condition here, and nice and even professional weld. Same that one. Nothing is Mickey Moused, nothing is cut in there, nothing is spliced. The pieces are nice and straight, and the frame appears to be symmetrical there. Don't worry about this part, okay? And just a reflector. I'm looking at the frame here. Other exposed parts of the frame is here, holding the back side of the engine. There, whatever part is exposed on it should be uncut, unmodified, not buckled, not twisted. And on this side we've got some exposed frame looking or running here. And the same principles apply. They need to be nice curvature on it. The next part here is the swing arm. Swing arm is also part of the frame. The rear wheel is kind of, here is the suspension for it, and the suspension is mounted here on the swing arm, and this piece of black bar is the swing arm. It's behind the exhaust here, and it's going here and there, and this is the swing arm pivot point. What I'm looking for on a swing arm is it should appear to be straight. I know the exhaust is in front of it, it's hard to see, but I'm also looking at the weld on it, and this one's looking good. When you look into the swing arm from this angle, it should be curved because it is that's how it's manufactured. Here, this nice piece is curved nicely and evenly, and up here I'm looking for any kind of distortion, but there's nothing. And both sides of the swing arm, the other arm of the swing arm is here, holding the rear axle. They should be symmetrical and rising to the same height. There, if you look at it this way, and this one checks out. Coming closer a little bit. Looking for rust here. There's nothing much to be seen. Checking out this part. Alright, this swing arm checks out just fine, and there's no major problems or rusting or anything here at the swing arm pivot point. That's good. Electrical, briefly. Now ideally you would need to have a key so you could test the systems or run the engine, but we don't even know if it's got engine oil in it, so starting it up may be a little tricky. What you can do is check your switches, operate the switches, make sure that the push buttons move and the turning buttons move as well as they should, and just checking the throttle cable. It should move freely without excessive force, and it's good, and things are bolted down solidly. This one is not entirely rusty, but a little bit darker than this one, but the corners on it are looking good. It's not rounded off, so it's easy to adjust there. Same on the left hand switch assembly here. Turn signal button, everything should work. The push button for the horn, just test it. I'm looking at the little lights. Without the battery powering it, you can't tell if the bulbs are good, but they are there, and they are not massively damaged, so that's already good news. On the instruments, I'm looking for any kind of moss, algae growing, any kind of condensation underneath the glasses, and these ones look good. On the turn signals should be symmetrical and straight through without any scratches here, indicating that the bike would be in a fall, and that one looks good. This one looks good as well. The lens doesn't have any chips and scrapes and damages, it looks good, and the housing for the light is good. There's not a lot of electrical components to be checked out here, but here where they go to ignition and into the headlight, you can have some of them exposed. Nothing seems to be spliced or cut or dangling, and the control cables here, because they are so close to it, this one clutch control there. I'm checking the outside of the clutch control cable here, it looks good. The rest of the wires, yeah, that one is old, but the horn still works. I tried it, believe me. I'm checking the spark plug cables. The spark plug is also electrical. The rubber should be nice and not cracking on it. The spark plug cap should have no cracks and folds and deformity on it. Same for the other side. And then finally down here to the starter motor. Starter motor bolts and everything should be here, and the cable should be mounted solid, which it is. Normally this one has a boot on it, a rubber boot to protect it. It's missing it, not a big deal. I don't see any corrosion there. And the next spark plug here, just check it briefly. It's not as new as the other side, but it doesn't have any major cracks. It doesn't have any anything that would indicate age or age to the disadvantage of the motorcycle. These are also electrical. This is your oil pressure sensor, and that's another neutral indicator sensor. They appear to be good, not spliced. Here is your ground cable for the battery, and for this we need to take this panel out and inspect the battery terminals. These terminals should be nice, free of any kind of sediment and clean, which they are. Same for the other one. That's good. Yeah, this one should be here like so. There's this little hose that belongs there, and the bolts for electrical are nice and accessible and clean. That's good. This is your starter relay, and everything looks good here. We'll get to the other side and check out your fuses. Just a sec. This goes back. No, we'll put it back later, I guess. There we go. Come to the tail light. None of the bulb covers are broken. The tail light is good. Should really operate it. Other tail light checks out, and the switch for some of the lights is here. Is operated by the brake. Works like so, and we should power this bike on and check the electrical that way. And on this side we've got the other body panel here, and we've got fuses on this side, and a couple of these connectors and rectifier, and we've got no spare fuses, but the ones that we have, they appear to be in good condition, and I see just the minimal dirt on everything here, so that's good news. The electrical is inspected. It seems to okay on this bike, and what should follow this inspection for frame and electrical is firing up the bike and actually verifying that the electrical systems work. And as for the frame, how you can verify your that the frame actually is without any distortion, you should ride the bike briefly, say 50 yards or 100 yards, to make sure that the steering geometry and everything checks out on it. But this is an unmodified frame on this bike that still has minimal corrosion on it and lots of life left in it. So that concludes the structural and electrical